All right. We've got our recording going, and we're into June 4th now. I can't believe it. It's crazy. It actually felt like summer yesterday, but today it turned back cold again down here in Huntington Beach. So I was hopeful that summer had arrived, but apparently not. Just a glimpse. All right. It looks like Allie, you're on, and I never got a chance to share with you what I came up with last week. So let me start off with that. Your art can be used in business. Like businesses love that kind of stuff. They love image, they love creation. They're just not very good at it, and you are. And what I was thinking, and I thought this years ago, when I first met you at Craig's group, you had these pieces of art that to me kind of looked like a coat of arms. And if you could take a business owner and ask them some questions about their business, about their values, their their whole methodology, all of that, and take that and create a coat of arms for their business, it goes well beyond a logo. It's like, this is what they stand for. It's almost like a country's flag. And create that for a business and have that be their coat of arms. And you could actually have a story behind it. You could sell them a whole package that they could put on their site. And I think that would be really cool. And I think they would pay a bunch of money for that. You're muted there, so I can't hear you.
I said that I had that thought. It's a great idea. And I had the idea to help companies come up with like almost their own Declaration of Independence, or like points that they stay focused on. Like I had a word for it. It's escaping me right now. But anyway, yeah, I would love to develop that with you, John.
Yeah, because that's one of the things when you think about, like in the ACT program, we always look at the avatar, who is it? What's important to them? And with business owners, one of the things about business owners is typically there's a pretty good size ego behind it. And
Yeah.
and they love unique stuff. And they love to be envied, especially if it's a male entrepreneur, especially if it's a male, because as you know, significance drives the male population. And for them to have a coat of arms, that's a sign of significance. That's a sign of they want other business owners to envy them because they don't have that. That thing of having something that someone else doesn't have, that is a huge motivational driver. And I think, you've got like the perfect thing. You could create a whole story around that you come in and you kind of create this thing that represents who they are and what their business is all about, their culture. And you could put it all into a crest, like a family crest. And I've seen some of them, like when I first met you at Craig's group, you had some that were very similar to that. And that's when I first thought that. And then it just kind of got back shelved. I may have even said that to you at one of the mastermind groups.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I wish I could remember which art that was. Jeez.
Yeah, you had these pieces of art that looked like family crests, and I'm like, oh my God, that would be perfect for a business owner. It's not a logo; it's
right.
much more than a logo. It actually would represent, their whole company, their culture.
Right. I would love to develop this with you because I've had this thought, like I said, to help companies create, like, we always talk about mission and vision statement, but it loses its impact when it's great that if they get developed, it would include that, but like the what's important to the company and their
Uh-huh.
environment and their people, like just defining it all.
Yeah.
I can't. My brain is not coming to the word that I'm looking for. Um, but it's like a Declaration of Independence, like
Yeah.
what we stand for and what we're about, and where we'll maintain focus, and it makes it easy to say no and to stay the course on what they're about and what they're up to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would really be a cool thing for you to do, is create that. And you could actually form a whole process around it. You could say, you could develop it, because here's the thing: if you want to charge a lot of money for something, you have to build it up as unique and valuable. So what you would do is you would create a process around it, that it's not just a piece of art. It's a process to develop their company culture and create a piece of art that represents them. Kind of like, the American flag represents America, or represents our culture. When people think America, they think red, white, and blue. It's the colors, it's the whole scheme. It has meaning. Like the stars, you got 50 stars, that represents the 50 states. The red bars, the white bars, all of that stuff, all the colors have meaning. And you could have this process where you interview the business owner, and you pull out all this data, and then you can put that into your creative process, and create their family crest for their company.
Can I add something really quick? I just had a energetic hit, Allie. You know how a lot of big companies have a mission statement?
Yes.
So this could be the visual interpretation of their mission statement, which is all of what John said, but a way to target market. Your mission and your vision for your company is now not only just verbal, but artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was getting to. It's that culture. It's the whole culture behind a company, and you could put that into a beautiful graphic that would represent them. And this whole significance behind a business owner, they would pay a bunch for that, especially if they saw others doing it.
Well, maybe we could start with you, Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. That would be really cool. You find some key players, like Craig would be another one. He would be another good one to do that for, because he's got a big audience, just like I've got an audience, and he's an influencer. So that's what you want to do. Pick a couple of influencers, and I'm not saying do this for free for anybody, but maybe take your influencers and just cut them a really good deal, and figure it out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, a lot of times people will do stuff for free in the beginning to create something. And,
right.
I did it in the ACT program. I took 12 people out of that first initial group, and I worked with them for a year. I didn't charge them a dime.
I missed the window.
I seriously, I put in a whole year to figure out how to build the program, what they needed.
Yeah.
And the result is absolutely phenomenal. So it's definitely worth, picking the right people and creating something that could really be cool.
Yeah, I would actually do that. Maybe we could talk about how to model after what you did, and pick a few key people to develop it, and figure it all out so that it's a compelling, that somebody would really want to invest the money and the time and energy and
and you could have a whole process of like shapes and colors, and if their business is square, it's very well defined. Maybe they go into a square formatted crest. If they're circular, if their business goes round and round and round, maybe a circle or an oval. But have these different criteria, like we're going to base the shape on this that represents your company. We're going to represent the colors based on this representation of your company, and all these different things. You could have a whole list of elements that you put into the artwork, and then during your interview process with the business owner, you're putting it together in your mind, and then you create. I just think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it can have several applications. I mean, if they have a corporate headquarters, they could, I mean, you could actually make it a part of a stained glass part. They have a corporate.
The other thing you could do too, you talked about Declaration of Independence. You could actually take the emblem now and put it onto a document and have their core values listed, and have this be their Declaration of Independence for their company. Not Declaration of Independence, but something of that.
Yeah, I can't, my brain is not letting me connect the dots to what I came up with this idea. It's, well, anyway, I don't want to keep saying that. So, yes, it's I could see this being developed.
Or maybe like this is instead of the Bill of Rights, this is our Bill of Benefits.
Yeah.
This is what you get out of working with our company.
It could even be given to clients,
Yeah, you could use that as a prospecting tool. It could be a lead magnet. It could be just a really cool thing.
Thank you, John.
And unlimited possibilities with it too. You could connect with Shanta, and you could take their crest now and put it on all of her products that could be mailed out to all of their customers. I mean, you got a lot of pieces at your disposal that you can connect with people here in our group and Craig's group and any groups you belong to. I mean, look at the power of the group. Look at who's in the group and how you can form things that didn't exist yesterday. Really, really cool stuff. So,
straight out of lockdown.
Exactly. I never felt like I was in lockdown, to tell you the truth. It's like I saw a movie, I forget what it was. I think it was Madam's Secretary. It was a series. We watched the first one, and they were talking about being in the box, and they said, you act as though there isn't a box. And that's what they loved about her. And I never feel like there's a box. I don't even know there is a box.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, there is no good, bad, and ugly. It is what it is. Let's deal with it.
There is no spoon, Neo.
Yeah. So, but very cool. And that's another thing too I want to put out to the group. I'm actually I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Fiverr. So the Fiverr out there is where people go to hire people to do stuff, and it's gotten a good name and a bad name. There's obviously, when you open up a thing like that, you don't know what you're getting. If you go in there, there's 5,000 graphic artists and there's 5,000 copywriters, and you don't know who's good and who's bad. And they're all faking their reviews and all that stuff, and who knows what you're going to get. So the good thing about it is it's a cool place to go and find resources. You just have to vet them, and it could be very expensive to do that. So what I'm working on doing is putting together a very similar marketplace for the Dominator community, and it will be open to any of you guys that want to offer services out to the people in the community. And I'm also going to open it up to the public for buying. The public will not be open as vendors. Nobody is going to be a vendor unless they're part of our group and they understand what we stand for, and I've vetted them that they're valuable resources. That's the only way you get into this thing. And then it'll be opened up, and hopefully, we can build something out of it that people can go to and have a trusted source for vendors for stuff. Instead of loading, 5,000 web developers in here, how about we just put one really good one, you know, or copywriters, how about we just put a couple of really good ones in there and do it that way. So, you know, if you guys have services, like there's a lot of stuff in the ad space that I teach and train and talk about and I can consult with, but I don't do it. Like Facebook ads, you know, I refer that stuff out. YouTube ads, I would love to find people that want to do that stuff and want to specialize in that. And I don't have any problem training you. I just don't want to do the work. I'm just far too lazy. You know, that's just, you know, but I want to have all those resources available, not only for my customers, but for everyone coming in, you know, because everybody needs all this stuff to run your business. You all need traffic. I kick myself almost on a daily basis because every day I get up, I think, why is today not the day that I run my first YouTube ad? I mean, seriously. And if one of you was skilled in that, I would just let you do it for me. So, and you know, not that I don't know how to do it, all of that. There's obviously a little learning curve in anything you do, but you know, so anybody that's out there that like doesn't have anything to do and you're like thinking, oh man, I wish I had something to do, you just let me know. I'll give you something to do. So Lisa, go ahead. You're muted.
Sorry,
There.
I'm taking the opportunity to be outside in the beautiful weather.
Yeah, I just unmuted you, so you're good.
Okay, no, okay. So first of all, you started to say something about Fiverr, and then did I miss it? Or you kind of went somewhere. You're putting together something with regard to Fiverr?
Yeah, no, I'm putting a similar platform together. It's like Fiverr. It's a marketplace for vendors.
Got it. Okay, got it.
So
Okay,
like
great.
I'll have a section in there for, you know, social media. I'll have a section in there for video.
And we'll all go on it. Is that it?
And yeah,
Perfect.
it will
Okay.
be open to you guys if you want to go in there and get stuff done.
No, but we can offer the services.
Oh yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. All right.
So anybody that's part of the group, as you know, you just have to show me or let me know that you know what you're doing in that, and I'm happy to plug you in there.
That wasn't my question, but thank you. Okay, so two things. First of all, I want to thank everybody that leapt to last week on Thursday when I asked for help on Zoom, and I just would like to share what I discovered. Thank you, Judy Fritz.
Oh, cool.
There was Marriott, who is not on here now, who also offered her help, and then I did not use that resource. Judy's amazing. So here's what I found out, that there's a missing piece between Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars. So Zoom webinars do not allow, no matter what buttons you push, for the attendees to be seen. And out of, if 500 or 10,000 participants, only 100 of them can be unmuted to actually speak. The chat can be used all day long, but the webinar platform wasn't. So I bought it that Thursday, I bought it that Thursday night, and then discovered this on Friday, and then asked for my money back. So Zoom meetings were the way to go for my presentation on Saturday. That I wanted to run like a webinar, but I also wanted to be able to open it up for Q&A. I had 40 people enrolled. And it was at the very last minute that because one of the things that I wanted to do was, in the recording, have the speaker, and you put it in speaker view, be the prominent picture that's being recorded on my screen. But there was no way that I could find that when I spoke, that my picture would come up. So, and there was no way to really split the screen between me and another just participant, not a host. So at the very last minute, when I was in the share screen portion of it, now I have to go back and figure it out. there was an advanced setting that says, have the video come up when I speak. Found it 5 minutes prior to going live on Saturday, and it worked like a charm. So I didn't have to go and pin my video and unpin when the other person was speaking. What I did occasionally was go back and forth between gallery view when I was asking, does anybody have a question? And people, you could see their faces, and then I went back to speaker view, and then they came up. So just wanted to share that for those that are going to run something similar. It's possible. Now, if I can just go back in and re-find what I found by accident 5 minutes prior. But the question I had for you, John, is I would like to know your personal organization system, because I'm a very organized person, but I'm finding now with all this content, online content, all the coachings, all the things that come at me from people's phone numbers to something they said or a quote. And I went over this with Judy, and I said, Judy, can you help me use Evernote? And then I went to Evernote and I go, well, it's very similar to what I've already got in Design and Dropbox, but that's still not it. And so it's not even an application I'm looking for. I'm looking for a system. So John, you work with multiple clients, you're training people, you have mentors, you're doing all of this. How do you organize? Is it with paper? Is it with, like, what do you do? Because I'm drowning in little handwritten notes. Stop. My dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear her, but I'm just drowning in it. So I'd like to know your system, which stands for save yourself time, energy, and money, right?
Yeah. I don't do anything, or I try not to do anything on paper. That to me is just an absolute disaster. I use and I have, like you said, I'm into a lot of different stuff. I have different clients and different systems. I use WHMCS software that runs my entire hosting business. All my web development and hosting runs out of that system. It's an awesome system. It's exactly what it's built for, and it does beautifully. I can do my broadcast emails. I can keep notes on all the clients. It does all the automated billing for all my hosting customers. Any of you guys that are on my hosting platform, you get the bills come from the WHMCS system. And that's the name of the company. It's WHMCS.com. And if you're in any kind of, service business like that, it's an awesome platform.
Well, it's not even that. I guess I know there's tools, but like John wakes up in the morning and he's got this to do and that client and this. I mean, do you just put it into a calendar? Like, how does your mind, guys are very seemingly linear. So you're focused on the task in front of you. Women are usually very diffuse awareness and are like, oh God, I've got 18 things to do. And I'm better than most when it comes to that, but I'm still stuck in do you get up on Monday morning and you do all your emails? And then what's your system for executing, not necessarily the resources used to execute?
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. Here's where the box doesn't exist for me. I don't conform. I wasn't good with school. I don't like schedules. I don't get along with any of that stuff. I am very fly by the seat of my pants, but in a very organized fashion. Like, I don't live in chaos. People that are in chaos get put to the side because I don't jump into the chaos with them. Everything is done in a very organized, methodical fashion. Like, I have a cell phone. I don't answer the cell phone unless it's a scheduled call. That will just, if I answered my cell phone every time it rang, I would be so ineffective, it would be ridiculous. So, cell phone, they all go to voicemail. and I get to them when I get to them. And everybody knows that, you know, I have an office line, and if they call the office line, they get to talk to Barb. Barb will not put you on a call with me unless it's scheduled. Or if she senses, she kind of has gotten pretty good at figuring out the sense of urgency for it. You know, like if we've got a server down and somebody's calling to report that, she's handing me the phone. But, you know, if it's not something urgent, she's not going to throw the wrench in my gears. She knows better, because it doesn't work out very well for her when she does. But, you know, like my day, sometimes I will use my phone, and this is something that I get, you know, if I don't keep track of stuff, I lose it really easily. And I get a lot of my really good thoughts and my real good creativity a lot of times is when I first wake up. And that might be in the middle of the night. I might get some like thought in my head while I'm sleeping, and it wakes me up. And I've got it, and it's like really cool, and it's brilliant. And I know if I go back to sleep, it's gone in the morning. So I have my phone right next to my bed, and I've got the little notepad thing on it. So I'll just type in enough to know what it is, and then I can go back to sleep. And then the next morning I'll get it. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. Boom, got it. So it's, you know, as far as that's a tool that I use. It's been really effective for me. But as far as like, you know, a lot of you guys think that I work really hard, and it might look like that. But I'm not doing hardly any of the work. You know, there's very few things in my business that I actually do. One of them is training and mentorship. That's what you guys see me do a lot. That's really about it. You know, like with my apprentices, I will get in, I'll do copywriting for them. I go to the ends of the earth for them for whatever they need. I'm really devoted to them for that. But like, you know, clients and all of that, I'm not doing any of that work. Yeah, I talk to them, and I schedule the jobs, and I make sure everything gets done. But all the legwork, all the wrench turning, all that stuff is done by my team. So, and they are organized through Basecamp. So every client I have, every apprentice I have, every prospect even that I have, if something needs to be done, I will put it in Basecamp. I'll create a project for it in Basecamp, and I will assign someone to do that project, someone to do what needs to be done to get that accomplished. And then whenever they put a note in it, I see everything. So
may I ask about your team then? Because do you have people on a salary? Are they for hire jobs? And how many? And what does that look like?
I probably, let's see, I've probably got about 30 people. There's only a couple of them that are on paid salary type positions. Most of them are either in the Philippines or they're in India. That's where the majority of my bolt turners are. Everyone that I've got has been trained by me. They're working to my standards. They're just executing what I would do. So I don't have any problems with things running wild or, you know, crazy shit going on. They're doing exactly what I would be doing. And
can you tell me, I'm so sorry if I'm taking up too much time, but can you tell me what those kind of things are? Because this is where I'm at, is like, I feel like a lot of solopreneurs that I have to do everything. Like I'm doing all the emails because nobody writes the way I write. And I'm choosing the images because that's what's in my head. And I'm doing the coaching, and I'm doing the sales copy, and I'm doing, you know, and so the relief of getting past the event has lifted something from my plate, and I'm also done with a series of coaching. But I would love to farm stuff out, but I wouldn't even know what that is. So you've got 30 people on your team. What tasks?
Well, here's the cool thing about what I've created. And this might be why it works for me, and it might not work for you. I don't know. But what I've created is I've created repetition. I've created systems that with repetition, you do the same thing and you get the same result. Like with SEO, for instance, there is a series of things that need to be done that I don't want to do. I know how to do them. I've done them in the past. I did them enough to learn them, but I'll never touch them again. And when I do them, this is what I started doing this in 2010, was my first experience with video. I mean, I didn't do a single video. I knew nothing about video. I was scared to death of it up till 2010. And that is really what changed my whole game, was when I was forced into doing my first video training. And that's when I realized, I'm like, holy shit, I never have to do this again. I mean, it's not going to change what I just showed this person how to do on video. It's not going to change tomorrow or next week or next month or even next year. That is a process that now if I want somebody to do that, they just have to watch the video and follow. It's me doing what I want them to do. Exactly. And everything since then, I've pretty much done that, including like my SEO Dominator training that I've sold for years. You know, every once in a while, SEO changes. It doesn't change as radically as everyone wants you to think it does. There's a lot of core principles in SEO that started with Yahoo. It was before Google was even in the picture. Like a lot of the on-page stuff, it's not new. You know, there's a thing that the SEO world calls siloing. You know, they're selling products about how to silo your content. And if you don't have silos, it's not going to work. Well, that's not new. That was by Yahoo. Yahoo set those standards. That's when they came up with breadcrumb navigation. And it was basically, it's just how to organize your content. It's categories, you know. Somebody came up with a unique mechanism called silos, and just like funnels, you know, funnel is just a sales process. Somebody put their own name on it, and now it's something new you got to do, right? Well, it's shit that I've been doing for 20 years. And it was from Yahoo originally set the standards for 99% of what is considered on-page SEO today. And it hasn't changed one iota. Not a bit. So, you know, when I train on how to do something right, it pretty much lasts forever. I look for evergreen stuff, and I don't really jump in. Like in my business, I don't jump into new stuff very often unless I see this is something that's going to last a really long time. If it's just going to be a flash in the pan, yeah, people are going to make a lot of money on it. I'm fine with that. I can sit on the sidelines and watch some people make some good money, get a quick buck. I've never been a quick buck artist. I would rather, you know, create something and make a little bit of money on it for the rest of my life.
So with video, John, are you saying then that you make a video showing your human resource what you would do at once so that they can follow it repetitively, and then when something like that comes along, you just go,
yeah, like let's say I'm expanding. Let's say I need to grow my team and I need to add 3 new people. I don't have to train those people because I can use the same video that trained the first ones. I can literally plug them in. And I have a process too when I hire people, and it's based on culture. And when I think about it, I'm like, holy shit, this falls right back on the ACT program. I hire people the same way I create marketing, with the very same process. I need to figure out who they are and what's important to them so I can treat them well as a human being so they're dedicated to me as an employee. And it works like crazy. Like, for instance, I'll give you a perfect example. If I'm hiring someone in the Philippines, right on the job application is their mother's birthday. You know why that is? Because in their culture, their mother is very important. And I know if I hire that person, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare their mother's birthday a national holiday and give it to them paid off. That's the first thing I'm going to do with a new person that I hire in the Philippines. If I do that, that person is going to be so loyal to me, it's unreal. And that falls back on the ACT program. If you do that with your customers and you go the extra mile and you do stuff for them that's important to them, that's out of the norm, they're going to value you like crazy. They're going to be with you forever. And, you know, that's what I want with employees. I don't want to change employees a bunch of times. You know, a lot of the guys that I have, I've had them since the beginning. And they'll fight to the death for me. Anything I need, you know, because
John, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Somebody has just come to my house that I have to go see. I have a critter. He's brought me a critter trap. So I will be back in just a moment, but thank you for that. I'm starting to get it. I know it'll take more time, but
yeah.
Next question.
It really is. It's about systems. For me, it's about systems that last forever, last a lifetime. And it's like, what can I do that can continue to make me money over and over and over and over for a long, long time? All right. So does anybody want me to continue on that? You want to know more about the process of how I hire people in the Philippines, or, you know, I'm open to you guys for whatever you need.
Yeah, that's interesting to me.
On the Philippines stuff?
Yeah, how you hire people and find good people, and
Okay. Yeah.
I could just go through you. Cut the
I'll tell you my exact process for it. And when I told, there's a guy named John Jonas, and he was like the first guy in the internet marketing space that made Filipino employees available to the internet marketing community. He put together a job board in the Philippines called onlinejob.ph. And all the people that had skills, they went and they signed up on there, and they were available for hire. So you could go to onlinejob.ph, and it was a great resource to find employees in the Philippines. The problem with it was about 4 out of 5 of them were con artists. 4 out of 5 of them were not good employees. They were not good prospects. And for you to find out, you'd hire them, and then you'd find out the hard way. And I know a lot of people that have trouble with firing. You know, they don't like that confrontational thing, and I'm one of them. I mean, that just totally turns me off. To me, I would almost rather not do it than to know I'm going to have to let somebody go. So I got really like into the whole process of how do I hire someone and not have to fire them. And that's where I came up with that. You know, first of all, you need to treat them good. And I looked at companies here in the US that I knew for, you know, forever, you know, people that have like employees, it's like their family. And I'm like, that's what I want. I want that. But to do that, I want honest people too. And a lot of them in the Philippines are not honest. So here's what I did. I came up with a process that was repeatable, and every time I need a new employee, I repeat this process. I'll go on to the job board, and I'll search the job board for the skill that I want. Like, let's say I want somebody to do keyword research or link building or outreach or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I go onto the job board and I sift them by that. and I look, and usually there's 100 of them or more for what I want to do for any given job application. I'll take the best of looking at their profile, looking at their application or their resumes, and I will pick probably anywhere from 20 to 50 of them. And I will send those. I don't post my job things out there just for open. I don't post a job offering and just take applications. I don't do it that way. I go on, I sift, I sort, and I invite. And I send an email similar to this out to this 20 to 50 people. I'll say, I own a company called XYZ, and we are looking for someone with this skill level, and I would like to invite you to apply if you're interested in the position. And boom, the email goes out. What I'm looking for is how fast does it take them to respond to an email? First, that's right out of the gate. That's my first thing I'm looking for, is are they on email all the time? Do they respond within 24 hours? And if they don't, they are out. So half of the groups is disqualified right out of the gate. The ones that do respond, I thank them for responding, and I say, here is the process. Here's how the application process goes. This is not actually for a job, it's for a trial. I'm going to give you a 1-month trial, and at the end of the month, you'll be paid for the trial, but it's just a 1-month period. And sometimes I'll even do 2 weeks, but I usually do a month. And I say at the end of the month, you're going to get 2 paychecks. You'll get paid 2 weeks in and 4 weeks in. And at the end, if we like your performance, you will be offered a full-time position. And I outline the pay, everything is up front. And I say the first thing is to fill out our application form. And I send them this, it's a Word doc, and it's probably 7 or 8 pages long. And basically it's asking them all kinds of questions, and there's a rating system for every question. And the rating system goes 0 to 5. And I put in there what each one means. Like if you put in a 0, that means you have not heard of this before. You know nothing about it, no knowledge. A 1 is you've heard about it, but you don't really know much about it. It's just you've heard it. A 2 is you know something about it, you have intermediate skill in it, and then it just goes on up from there. A 5 means that you know more than I do, and you could teach me a thing or two about it. So you better be damn serious if you put a 5 in anything. I'm going to test you. So that's the first thing. And I list every possible skill on that sheet that I could ever want in my lifetime. And it doesn't have to do with the current job. It's everything. I'm basically asking them to put down rate themselves in everything, including English skills, reading, writing, and language speaking. So they got to rate themselves in all of those categories. And one of the things I look at is how long does it take them to get that back to me? And then when I look at that, if I see somebody that has a 4 or a 5 in English writing, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to write me a couple of paragraphs of why they feel they would be good for the job. And again, I'm looking for how fast it comes back, and did they lie on their writing skills? If they tell me that they're a 4 or a 5 in speaking English, then we immediately request a video conference. I want to talk to them, and I want to know if they're lying. And if they're lying on any category that I can figure out from the application process, they're automatically out. They will not go to the first phase of the trial. And what I get, usually out of 20 to 50 of those, I will usually boil it down to 4 qualify for everything that I'm looking for. And what I'll typically do is I'll hire all 4 of them. Even if I only need 1, I'll hire all 4. And I'll run the test. And what I'm doing on the first month on the trial basis, I am loading the shit out of them for job stuff. Like I'm giving them way more stuff than I think they could do. And I'm looking to see what their capabilities are. Because if they, in the first month in the trial basis, if let's say it's an article writer that I'm looking to hire, if they're writing me 3 articles a day or 4 articles a day in the trial period, guess what I'm going to expect from then on out? I'm getting to understand their capabilities, and they will be held to that standard in the job. I know if they do 4 or 5, for the first month, and then I hire them and it drops down to 2 or 3, what I know about them is I know they're working for somebody else. And that's grounds for dismissal if I've hired them full time. Very clear up front with all of that. Like if I'm hiring you full time, you need to let me know if you're doing stuff for someone else and just be honest with me. So that's kind of the process. It's almost like a CIA type of process of profiling and really getting to the bottom of who is it that you're dealing with. And then once they're hired, like I said, their culture is very important, not only to them, but to me. Like I know all their holidays. They're given all their holidays off. In the Philippines, they have a tradition. It's called the 13-month paycheck. And basically what that means is in December, you double pay them. It's like a Christmas bonus. So if you're paying them $400 a month for labor in December, you're going to pay them $800. And you give them 2 weeks off for the holiday. So it's just a part of their culture. If you don't do that, then what happens is they're not really happy. They're doing what you're asking them to do because they have to make a living, but they're always looking for something better. And I got to tell you, if I'm going to hire somebody and I'm going to spend a bunch of time to train them and put my resources into building a good employee, I don't want them to go away. I want them forever. That might sound a little possessive or whatever, but it's an investment. If I'm going to invest my time and my resources to train someone, I'm looking for, something in return. I want a return on my investment. So that's kind of my process. But let's say they fill out the form, everything looks good. I get the forms back. I'm looking, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll find somebody has applied that is better for a different position, and I'll put them into that. And that's what it gives me, that profiling, that big sheet, that Word document that I put out there with all those questions and all that rating system. It's telling me really what they're skilled in. I don't want to take somebody in for article writing if they're skilled in graphics, because they're not going to be happy. And if I've got a graphics position, then I'll plug them into there. So that's kind of my process in a nutshell of how I do that. So any questions? Judy, go ahead. You got to unmute.
Whoa. Sorry.
There you go.
I have a question.
Okay.
I think I'm doing this conference. It's the Driven Conference, and we're sponsors. And I need like an opt-in. We'll be on there, and we're able to say, hey, if you want to opt in and, sign up for my thing or whatever it is. And I'm attempting to do this for the first time. I'm real good now at configuring, moving everything and all that.
Okay.
What I'm not sure is if I've done the whole process right and if it even works. How do I check it?
Gotcha. The way I check them is I test every Kartra sequence that I make. Like I literally go through the process myself, just as though a customer would.
Okay, how do you do that?
I pull up the landing page. I opt in. I make sure that the follow-up sequence comes through. If there's
Okay.
a product,
So the landing page, and if I'm going to send this to them, that's the next question. How do I send this like whole sequence to them so they can put it in whatever they're doing?
okay. Are you talking about you're building a campaign for someone in your Kartra account and then you're going to move it to theirs?
No, actually, I don't know what they're doing.
Are you building it for you or for someone else?
It's for me, but they're going to put it, you know, they've got like this whole portal thing that they're doing this big, I mean, huge virtual event.
Oh, okay.
And
So
as
really,
a sponsor,
so
I'll have like a separate room and people will be able to click in and say, yeah, I want her offer.
gotcha.
So I need to send them something.
Okay, so all you're sending them is your landing page.
Okay.
You're just sending them your landing page. They're going to click or do whatever they do to get to that. And then from there, Kartra pretty much takes over.
Okay.
Like
So to test it, I would just
opt in and make sure that what you think is going to happen happens.
okay. All right. Got it.
If there's a product for sale, what I'll do, I'll always buy the product myself. Like if I set it up, I use Authorized Net. So in Authorized Net, it will run the credit card transaction for you live, and it doesn't batch the transactions till later in the day. So as long as you log into your Authorized Net account and you cancel the transaction before it runs, it'll never charge your card.
Yeah, this is a freebie, so
Okay.
I don't have to worry about that.
But if it was, if there was a you know, if there's in your sequence, if there's a product to purchase, make sure you test it. Make sure not only that the credit card goes through, but also that the thank you page is right, that the follow-up email is right, that it's assigning you to the membership if it's a membership site. You want to test everything to make sure that everything is doing what you think it should do. You can also create coupons. If let's say it's $100 product, you can create a $99 coupon and then just buy it for $1. It charges your card. You see the dollar go into your account. You could do that.
Okay.
But yeah,
John, could Judy like ask a few of us to test run for it and like do that, Judy? $1?
It wouldn't really help her. She needs to see it herself. So if there's a flaw, she can fix it right there.
Okay.
If you run it, you don't really know what to expect. So you're not going to know if there's an error, but she is. So you literally, anyone that's building funnels, you need to test it because only you know what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
So if you're the builder of the funnel, you are the tester of the funnel.
Do you have a checklist, John?
I don't myself. When I'm building a funnel, they're always different. So I'd wind up with 50 checklists, which all I really care about is it does what I want it to do. And generally that's fairly simple. Like if it's an opt-in, does the thank you page come up right? Is the contents right on there? Do the links work? Does the lead magnet download and open properly? That's all I want to know. I just want to know that my customer is going to get the experience that I wanted for them. And that's really my checklist. I'm checking it off just by doing it. So I don't need a formalized sheet to go down and check the list. Like I said, I'm not very good. You weren't on the call earlier, but I'm like, I didn't do well in school because I'm not a conformist. Like if you tell me, oh, you follow this checklist and check this off, I'm going to throw it in the trash. I'm like, yeah, right. I do shit my own way. So I've never really been big on, that. Now I am big on procedural. Like when I create procedures, I do expect my employees to follow them, but they're not me. They live in a different world and they do belong in a box. I know that might sound a little little prejudiced or whatever, but you know, that's why we own businesses. There's two different kind of people in the world. They're the ones that create and build and run and drive the economy, and then there's workers. And you know, there are, I don't care how you slice it, there's two kind of people in the world. They're the workers, and they're the ones that drive the system. They're very, very different. There's a reason for that. You know, they say when there's too many engines and not enough chiefs, you have chaos. And generally, how many chiefs are there in comparison to the engines? There's a lot of engines and only one chief. And if you look at the world, that's the way it's made up. You know, how many people have regular jobs versus the ones that can actually make it on their own? Those are the chiefs. There's very few of them. To be a chief, you have
Tony Robbins does. Tony Robbins has the DISC profile on his website for free.
Yeah.
And, you know, the drivers are only like 2%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't know where I got started on that, but I really believe that, you know, and that's me. I'm definitely the chief. I don't fit in the engine box. I'm too big for that box.
There is no box, John.
Yeah, for me, I don't even know there is a box. But anyway, hopefully nobody takes offense to that, because I don't mean to sound, you know, degrading to anyone. You know, there's everybody's awesome. Everybody fulfills a part of community and everything. So I don't think any less of anyone that's an employee that works that way, or anybody that conforms to school. Yeah, I think that's great. We need those people. I am just not one of them.
Well, it has to do with the comfort level too. Some people are adverse to high risk. Most entrepreneurs don't care. But there are people that need, you know, comfort, and that's a basic employee.
Yeah. This was really interesting. My neighbor right next door, we've been neighbors for 30 years. And I've had several conversations with him because he's absolutely fascinated with me. And he is a government employee. His wife is a government employee. He's worked for the city, you know, and they're both retired now. So they're not working anymore, but you know, for 30 years they worked. She was a librarian and he was a city worker. And you know, we had several conversations across the wall about, you know, what we did. And he always told me, he goes, I would just be scared to death. He goes, I really envy you, but I would be scared to death because, and I'm like, what are you scared of? What would you be scared of for me? And he said, well, there's no security. There's no guarantees. And I'm like, well, really? How secure are you when somebody can end your job tomorrow and you have nothing to say or do about it? How secure is that really? And I told him, I said, you know, I would be scared to death to be in your shoes. And he's like, why? You know, I've got this, I've got that. And I'm like, you know, if you told me that I had to get up every day at a certain time and go to a certain place and do a certain thing and answer to somebody, I think that would be the first time in my life I would need a necktie, and it wouldn't be to wear it around my neck for decoration. You know? I mean, seriously, I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't even be able to get out of bed if you told me I was going to have to do that over and over and over for 30 years and I was going to get X amount. And that was it to my life. I'd be done. I couldn't function in an environment like that. I was not made for that. And you know, it's like, and he's the absolute opposite. And And there's no way I can convince him that I am more secure than he is. And there's no way he can convince me that he's more secure than I am. I write my own ticket. There's never been anything in my life that I wanted that I couldn't have. I don't think he can say that. He's got a plan for years to take a dream vacation. And once it's over, that's it. He has to start scrimping and saving for the next one 10 years from now. I just go do it. I'll be able to cover that, no problem. How much more shit do I need to sell? It's like, and it's the freedom formula. If any of you have been through the freedom formula, it's the first step of the ACT program. And it basically says, what do you want? How much does it cost? What do you sell? What's the profit? How many units do we have to move to cover it? That's how I've lived my entire life. It started when I was like 8 years old and I wanted a model airplane. My dad said, you could have all you want, but they cost money. And I had to figure out how many cars I needed to wash to get the model I wanted. That was it. That it hasn't been any different any day in my life past that. It's like, what do I want? How many units do I have to move to get it? To me, that's security. I can have whatever I want. And that's the cool thing about marketing campaigns is the marketing campaign is the vehicle for you to move the units to get what you want. And without it, you're kind of stuck. That's why businesses struggle. That's why they kind of get in a rut and they're working their ass off and they're not getting anywhere and they can't figure it out. It's because they don't have a vehicle to move more units. That's what a marketing campaign is. Sales is the final end of marketing where you actually close the deal and collect the money. But without the marketing, the sales doesn't happen. The sales job is very frustrating if the marketing isn't in place. Because for you to close a sale, you have to have prospects. You have to have a pipeline full of prospects, and you have to work them through the process of getting them ready to actually make the purchase. So sales and marketing, if you do the marketing correctly, the sales becomes superfluous. It's not even needed because you've created a pipeline, you've grabbed people's attention, you've created the demand and desire, you've eliminated the objection. They're ready to give you the money. Like when in the SEO world, when I was actively pulling in SEO clients, I was never a salesperson. I would talk to them as a person. I would talk to them and show them they had a problem. The first thing I would do is I would sit them down and I'd just start asking questions about their business. I would say, who's most profitable? Like if I could bring you a customer, who would you want me to bring you? And they would tell me. And I would say, okay, thinking about that person, if that person were to sit in front of Google and run a search, what do you think they would search for if they needed you? And they would tell me. And I would put it back to them in their own words. And I'd say, well, do me a favor. You've got the computer up in front of you. Pull up Google and type that in. Let's see what happens. That was my sales presentation. It was just a conversation to help them understand what they were missing. They would type it in and boom, up comes the 10 results and they're not there. I just ripped a hole in them and they're bleeding. It's a really good time to offer a Band-Aid. That's a really solid sales presentation. It's not pushy. It's leading them on a discovery process that creates a massive demand and desire to fix a problem they didn't know they had when I walked in the room. I didn't tell them they had a problem. I let them discover it. I just took them on a guided tour. When they discover that, do I have to push them to sell something? Usually they're asking me, how fast can you fix this? Usually they're not even concerned with what it costs. It's just how fast can you fix this? You know, so you don't have to be a good salesperson. You don't have to pay high sales commissions if you do your marketing right. If you create a marketing campaign that does all that, it can do that all automated using Kartra. You just have to understand the process. You have to get your feet dirty first. Like for me, if I hadn't done that live, belly to belly, face to face, and really created that sales process, there's no way I could replicate that because I wouldn't have anything to replicate. So you got to get a little bit dirty first to create a marketing campaign. That's why the analysis is so important. You actually have to talk to people. You have to understand who you're talking to. You can't just dream it up out of your head. You have to have the experience. You have to know who you're dealing with and what's important to them. So if you got to get a little bit dirty in the beginning to accomplish a task, then that's what you got to do. You know, 50% of the time in the ACT program is spent in that A. Remember when we did Fast Track? The whole first day was in the A. You know, most people disregard the A. They blow right past it. They hop into creation and they usually get a disaster. And that's why. You have to know what you're creating. You cannot create an effective marketing campaign without the analysis. You got to know who you're talking to. You got to know why they would want what you're offering them. You got to know what's important to them. Same thing with the way I hired the Filipinos. I've got to understand their culture. I had to get dirty to figure it out. I had to get in and figure that stuff out so I could replicate a process. Building a funnel is easy. Pulling Kartra up and adding the pieces to it is easy. That's just nuts and bolts. Anybody can do that. Where the magic is in the messaging. You cannot create messaging without understanding who you're talking to. That's where the analysis will save your asses. Because otherwise, everything is just going to be really expensive for you in business. You're going to create a website, you're going to pay a bunch of money for it, it's not going to work, and you're going to have to do it again. You're going to spend a bunch of money on advertising, it's not going to work, and you're either going to throw in the towel or you're going to have to do it again. And it's just going to be a really bad experience. It's going to be really expensive, you know. Or you can, you can follow a process that's been followed for hundreds of years by ad agencies that actually works. It's not easy. It's not rocket science either. I mean, anybody that's gone through the ACT program, I've never had anyone come to me and say any one step was impossible. Any one step was really difficult. It wasn't like you have to have a higher education to do this. It's all simple math. It's simple concepts. You don't have to be ultra intelligent. In fact, if you look at some of the online marketers that are making millions of dollars, I got to tell you, there's some absolute idiots doing it. I don't know how they got, maybe they just fell in shit. I don't know, but they're doing it. They're not highly intelligent people, but they're following a process that works. and they're doing it over and over and over. So anyway, and hopefully none of you guys take offense to any of the stuff that I'm saying, but it's all based on my observation. And as far as I can tell, it's absolutely true. So, all right. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Gwen. I just got one quick question on your whole Filipino thing. And
okay.
I know on LinkedIn, I've been getting hit up a lot by Indian, Filipino, Asian, Mexican, all sorts.
Yeah.
But the one that caught my eye was a company, and they said all of their people speak and write perfect English. And I'm like, yeah. Would something like that be also something to use your test on, or
when you're hiring a company, you're really kind of sidestepping the process, and you're leaning on the company to have done that for you. So there's not really a way for you to do that process when you hire a company. The only thing you can do when hiring a company is you can do the same process as far as testing them. You can give them a project and see how they do with the project.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that's
I
all you're
think I'd
really
rather rely on you.
yeah, that's all you're really committed to is just that project. When it's over, hey, if it was bad, okay, we won't do that again. You don't have to fire a bunch of people.
Yeah. Okay. Because
So,
I was looking at all this going, I know you're not going to be in business forever. So I'm thinking, I probably should look at building something.
well, that's true. I mean, I may not be in business forever, but hopefully I can build systems that will outlast me and somebody can take it over.
Well, that's a possibility too. I was thinking about that too, going, well, so I know you much prefer being on your boat in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
Yeah, I was, for years and years, I've always hoped that it would be a family member, a niece or a nephew. And I don't know. I just haven't really had much luck finding somebody that has the same goals and visions as I do. So it'll probably have to be somebody outside the family.
Yeah, it happens.
But
But
hopefully, I can build some solid enough systems that anybody can just sit in the driver's seat and replicate.
well, that'd be cool. But anyways, did you get my email from yesterday?
I did. Your page looked pretty good, and it kind of alerted me to a problem that I had, that I'm kind of the page that you had was great. It has good information, but it alerted me to the fact that I missed a piece when putting it together for you.
Ah, okay.
And it's not a big thing, but it is the front end, and it's the big idea.
Ah,
So
you're right.
I think I need to create a big idea for you to just put in the front of it, and then you're good.
Okay, I will hold off on sending that out then.
Yeah, you need it. And remember, the big idea is the attention grabber, because what you're doing with it, and I totally my fault. I created the material. You just followed along. But the material is great, but it's under the assumption that they know what they're looking at.
Ah, okay.
And so once you grab their attention and you get their interest, taking them into that material is perfect. It's just we're missing the front end piece. It's the attention grabber. And
Okay.
of all of us, I should know better than anyone about that mistake. So,
Well, it happens to everyone when it seems like it's easier to do everybody else's work before your own.
yeah, absolutely. I have definitely found that. So thank you for like throwing it back at me so I could see the errors of my ways.
I appreciate it. Thank you for all your
Yeah.
work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, last chance here. Dwayne, go ahead.
Yeah, me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. I gave a beta test workshop last Saturday that went really well, and I'm wondering how to set up this workshop as my initial offering on Kartra after somebody gets a freebie and comes to me.
Okay.
I'm thinking of doing it live and having part of it Saturday, part of it Sunday. How would can Kartra do that? Can they do live workshops?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you need inside Kartra is it's a free thing for 2 days?
No, this would be a paid one.
Oh, okay. Perfect. No problem. Is there any freebie, or are they just paying to go right into it?
There's different freebies that I'm offering. I have a really good ebook. There's articles. There's things to tell them what I do and get them very interested and build desire and all of that.
Okay.
but this would be like my primary product. And then that would lead into, if they like it and they want to continue with me, they move into a membership page.
Okay. So you have a sales cycle here that starts prior to the purchase of the 2-day event.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have people that are already in your system that are up to the point where it's appropriate to offer this to them. And that, with that, if you had that scenario going on, if they're already in your system and they're warmed up and now you're bringing them this offer, what you need as far as Kartra is you need a page that they can register. So on the registration page, it's kind of like a little short sales page and then an order button to reserve their seat. It's the same thing as a free webinar. It's a registration for the event. The only difference is, instead of just registering for free, they're just paying the entry price. So the button, instead of, to reserve the seat, is going to take them now to the shopping cart to pay for it. So once they pay for it, then they go to a thank you page, and the thank you page also sends a follow-up email that has the link to actually attend the seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And then that goes into an auto response email follow-up that basically sends them an email like a week ahead, a couple of days ahead, the day before, the day of, and all of those are still giving them the link to log in, not to register, to attend. And then on day 2, another email reminding them for day 2. And again, if it's a different link or if it's the same link, if you're using Zoom, you can create a Zoom webinar that runs multiple days and it's the same link. So they could use the same link to get on for multiple days. So anyway, the emails go out. That's part of the sequence. And then what you want to do is you want to have a replay page in Kartra. And as soon as the thing is done, like after day 2, give yourself some time to put the videos up on the replay page, and then send them out another email that says, hey, thank you all for attending. I know things get hectic and you might have missed something, or maybe you couldn't make a certain session. So we've recorded the entire event and you have access to it now. And then you send them to the replay page. Now, the replay page can be inside of a membership area that you allow them access to it. And then inside the membership area, you can have the different tabs to your other things that if they click on it and they're not subscribed yet, it would prompt them to subscribe to get access to that next tab.
Wow.
Which is kind of a cool way to get people to, to move up in your system, because they consume the content in the first module and then they go to the second module and they see, oh, I don't have access to that. Their demand is really high at that given point to get access to more.
Yeah.
Especially if you seed the first one. That's something, when you're creating products, you should always be seeding the second sale. You should always be talking about what's next. Like, if you're doing SEO, or I guess that's a bad example, but let's say you're doing whatever it is, you're talking about what they're going to want next, and then making reference to, oh, and in the second training, I'm going to show you how to do this. So you can get that extra benefit. And then, after they've consumed it, they already know what's in the next one and they already want it.
Nice.
So like you'll see this a lot when people are doing live events. They're always seeding the sale of the next thing. Like, let's say you paid $97 to be in the room, and they start talking about all the benefits that the people in their mastermind group got. And, a lot of you have seen this process. It works really, really well. And they actually, you know, start calling on the mastermind members and getting them to share their experiences. So when the event is over and they make the offer, who wants to join the mastermind? It's all been preceded. And then it's created this demand and desire to take the next step and make the next purchase. So always make reference to what else you have when you've got somebody in something they've purchased. Always make reference of what else you offer. If you don't, it's like you're keeping your stuff secret. You know? Not the best way to sell stuff. It's hard to sell a secret.
Right, unless you have psychic powers. And you can transmit into their brain.
Exactly. It's like, you know, if you don't, as a kid, if I didn't tell all my neighbors I washed cars, I wouldn't have washed any cars. Right? I let them know, hey, if you want me to wash your car for $25, I'm here. And guess what? Since it wasn't a secret, they started giving me quarters. I started buying model airplanes. So nothing has changed except the quarters got bigger.
Yeah. Great.
So that's what I would do. And yeah, Kartra is made for that. A lot of times what I'll do, like some of my most successful webinar sequences, I will do a free webinar to sell something. And what I do is I do the Kartra page, the invite page, like come to the free webinar, sign up, register to come to the free event. And then they go to the thank you page. They go to the same exact follow-up sequence to make sure they come to the webinar. And then at the end of the webinar, I make the offer. And then I immediately send out, after the webinar is over, I immediately send out the replay page. And anybody that wasn't on the webinar, because most people, even if they pay for something, most people won't show up to it, especially a virtual event. They buy it because they want it, but the timing is everything. And I don't care how good you are at picking dates, you're never going to pick a date that's perfect for everyone. And especially now when a lot of people are working at home, it's like stuff happens. You know, the door rings, the dog barks, the phone goes off, a neighbor shows up, and you get derailed. A lot of times we don't just, you know, that happens and we don't just jump right back in and start where we left off. Especially with a live event that's happening. You know, you lose a 30-minute segment, and now you hop in and, you know, they're talking about stuff you're out of sync, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'll just wait for the replay. So it's really important that you record the stuff and make that accessible, whether they paid or not. And again, if you don't do that, I know I've even used it as a tactic. I used it as a tactic for consumption when I did my first ACT trainings online. You know, I had live events. I'd always done live events with small groups of people. And when the whole COVID thing came through, I had multiple events scheduled, so I had to switch them to virtual. And what I did, I sent a whole email campaign out to make sure that people actually set the time aside and actually attended, because I knew it was going to be a challenge. I knew it was going to be a massive challenge of distraction with them being at home. And I really wanted them to consume the content. So I actually said, we're not recording this. I said, this is a live event, just like it's always been, and you must participate. You must, you know, set the time aside. I'm committing the time to you. I want the same. I want you to commit the time to me. And I actually did a whole campaign on that, because I know if you don't participate in the live event, you'll probably never participate. You know, a lot of people just don't do things on their own. I could give you access to the recordings, but I know you're not going to go through them and you're not going to get the same experience as if we did it together in one seamless thing. I know that. So I did a false thing where I said it wasn't going to be recorded for the purpose of getting the consumption that I wanted to deliver to the audience. And I had an amazing response. The whole 2 days, I kept an audience engaged for 2 days. I could not believe it. I mean, it was unbelievable, the engagement rate. And even though, you know, some people realized they saw the little recording button going on and they knew I was recording it, you know, but they, and I got to tell you, I had done those events over and over and over. I've been doing them for like 3 years, teaching the ACT program. And once I did that first recording, for me, I was like, holy shit, there was no interruptions. In a live event, I get derailed a lot because I'll take questions and we'll get off track and there's a lot of material to cover. So when I did the event virtually for the first time, it was like I didn't have any distractions. It was the first time I'd ever gotten to deliver the content the way it's meant to be delivered, uninterrupted, and it really came out perfect. And I'm like, holy shit, I don't have to do this ever again. I'm never going to get any better than this recording. And when I did the second live event, I actually ran the recordings. There was only a couple of people that realized what I was doing. I ran the recordings on the second event that I did, and no one knew that it was a recording. I did it on Zoom. I pulled up the video and I just let the video run. I was doing some work on the other computer behind me while it was going. And then during the breaks, I would come on live and answer the questions.
I've thought of that. Interesting, because I originally wanted this just to be a fully recorded online thing, but I did the beta test live, and I had 5 people. And what I found is the processes that I was teaching, they really needed me there live, you know, to give them feedback and guidance. They had questions. It's really deep work, deep emotional, psychological, off a life experience kind of work, transformational work. So I had actually thought of that, of doing pieces of it recorded just so it could be really tight and well done. I guess I would just have to have the same backdrop, the same shirt,
Yeah.
right? The same suntan, and pretty much do the whole thing like that, right?
Yeah, but that was what I found by doing it virtually, where I wasn't interrupted by the live group. I got to lay down the training track perfectly. And then the Q&A always goes wherever it goes. It's always different. That's why I say, as many of these ACT events as I've put on live, I've never had one that went the same. Not once ever have I felt like I delivered the exact same content, because I go wherever the audience will take me. And I'm very fluid like that. I have no problem with it, but ultimately I'd like everyone to get the same experience.
Yeah,
I know the experience works. The system
That's a really
works.
good point. Yeah, yeah. And then I can really refine it too. It's like, if I'm doing the whole thing live, I might have a down day energetically, or I might forget some important points or whatever. So that really makes sense.
Yeah, and you don't have to nail it the first time. Let's say, you do it 3 or 4 times before you really feel like, wow, I don't think I could do any better than that. Or since you've got all the recordings, maybe you feel like, oh, the first session of the first time was awesome. I can't do any better there, but I need to keep working on the second and third session. And, maybe the 4th session was dialed in. You can actually do that and keep doing it live until you get it nailed down. And then once you do, now you've got your evergreen. Now you've got the recordings. You can put that in a membership area, and you can sell access to it forever. And even if you wanted to do the events evergreen, what you could do is you could say, here's the training. I want you to go through the training at your own pace. And then on Saturday, I'm going to do an open Q&A call. I'm going to answer all your questions.
Oh, wow. I like that.
That way, you know, you're only committing to 1 day a week or something. And you have a true evergreen money-making machine.
Hmm.
You could also subscribe them into, like, if this is like, you know, an ongoing thing, you could almost turn it into like an ongoing membership mentoring system where you have a weekly call, just like I do here.
Yeah, that's what I plan to do actually, is from this, invite people into that. And I have like 35 teaching videos on different areas of the law, on how to prepare to go to court and how to understand judges and how to work the system and all of that. So
And
yeah, that's my plan there. What I found on Saturday was there was one exercise where I was asking them to take a situation that they had really negative thoughts and feelings or history about. And I don't want them walking into court with this negative mindset, you know, about judges, the system, attorneys, whatever, because I wanted to walk in calm and confident and knowing what to say and looking the judge in the eye and being friendly and being persuasive and all of that, right? So I asked them in the workshop to take one of their negative beliefs and write like a positive version, a reframe. How can you reframe this belief? What would be the words that would help you manage this better? And what the participants said, this was the part that was most struggle for them. They said it would have been nice to hear from the other participants and feedback and all that, kind of do that as a group process to help each other.
Sure.
So that might be one piece where I'll need to jump in and do a group process.
Yeah, well, you could also do that. You can record those group processes too. And that can just
have
be
to get
part,
permission.
yeah, that could just be part of the thing too.
Wow, that's a nice idea.
The other thing you could do too is, if you don't want to do it by permission and you don't want to do it that way, what you can do is you can detail out and kind of make a case study of, hey, of all the groups I've done over the years, here's been what's come out of the brainstorming process, and here's the 5 things. And you could present that as a case study, and you could accomplish the same thing without involving the live interaction of people and having to get their permission.
Oh, that's really nice, actually. And what I could do actually as a resource, I could give them a list of 20 or 30 sample reframes. That might do it. That might actually be better, because then it's coming from me rather than the amateurs to each other.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, when you do that, when you go into that mode, you really open up a can of worms. So if you're really trying to deliver an experience and an outcome, the more that you can control that, the better off you'll be.
Yeah.
But by creating case studies, and then it's your interpretation of that for the teaching, I think that's probably the most powerful.
Yeah. One thing I found also is that, you know, I've done a lot of workshops and talks, and there's often a person there in the audience who wants to be the teacher or wants to talk a lot or ask all the questions.
Yeah.
If I just do a pre-recorded thing, that takes care of that problem, because I can manage it pretty well, but it's challenging at times.
Yeah. Yeah. Because as you know, and a lot of times in the live events, and I've seen this in everyone's live events, as soon as you give someone the microphone, they take a step up and they're on what's called a soapbox.
Yeah.
And you can really lose the crowd by doing that, you know, because who knows where they're going to go, and who knows if they're going to be in alignment with where you're trying to take the audience. It could really be damaging.
Yeah, and actually that piece of it where they really felt like they would like the mutual support and hearing from each other, that's where I invite them into the membership group. say,
Exactly.
here you go. You can team up with people. You can form your own little groups. You can ask me questions once a week.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And as long like in Kartra, inside the membership area, you can allow comments to be on, and you can almost have that be like your own little private Facebook group, but it's inside your membership in Kartra.
Hmm.
So they can communicate back and forth in the comments.
You mean while they're watching a recorded thing?
Yeah, that or anytime they're in there, as long as they're part of the membership, they get access to that community.
I see.
So
Oh,
you
yeah. So they can, at 2 or 3 in the morning, they can post something, post
Mhm.
a question, communicate with each other.
yeah, exactly. In fact, you can you could even open you could put a tab in the membership area for open communication, and just just turn it loose, just let them roar.
Hmm. Do I have to have that, like, should I hire somebody to oversee that, just to watch for appropriate
Well,
languaging and all that?
if it's members, if it's people in a real tight community, it's usually not that bad. If you were doing this open, oh my God, I have managed some forums that it's like 6 o'clock in the evening, the wine comes out, and oh my God, it's all hell breaks loose.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
But usually in a paid environment like that, typically it's a lot more respectful, and and you basically just set the guidelines. Say, hey, this certain types of behavior will not be tolerated. There's a zero tolerance, and you will be removed from the membership.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
So that's always, you always have to
Very
do that.
This is so helpful.
Yeah, you always have to do that though, whenever you're opening things up to to community participation, you have to have guidelines.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's to protect your other members. You don't want to be anybody to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll end there. I see Scott raising his hand, but thank you so much for all this input. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those were great questions. Thank you for sharing that. John, I have a question about, I'm going to be using some outside advertising to get up and right back.
Okay. All right. So anybody else here before we wrap up? Wait for Woody to get back and wrap up his question, but anybody else before we cut out for today?
I'm back, John.
All right. Yeah, we were just waiting for you. I was just seeing if anybody else wanted to hop in.
When you're Andy challenge, you got a hole in your neck.
Oh,
you
man.
got to wake up in the morning. But anyway,
I get it. It takes me about a half hour to get going with all my allergies and stuff every morning.
Exactly.
I'm blowing stuff out of every hole.
Thank you for your patience. Anyway, my question is, I'm doing outside advertising. That'll get people to our website. And then when do you offer a membership site, a paid one?
Sure. Well,
they might feel tricked. It's like, oh, I'm answering I'm on your site, but now you're going to charge me, like a betrayal.
Yeah, what you have to do is, that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. You've got to get a little bit dirty of figuring out what works in the real world, and then you replicate that. And it's basically your sales process. With any business and any situation, you're doing the same thing. You're grabbing someone's attention with an ad. You're bringing them over to your store or your landing page or whatever it is. Like, say, for instance, let's say you had a furniture store and you run an ad in the newspaper and you say, hey, we're giving away free couch pillows this Saturday. Come on down, get your free couch pillow. So they show up at the store, right? The couch pillows are in the far back corner. So they have to go through this maze and see all the other cool stuff that's offered for sale before they get there. On the way to the couch pillows, there's a process going on, and it's basically trying to create their demand and desire for a whole furniture set, not just the pillow, right? If they get past all of that, they get back, and here's the guy that's going to give them the pillow, and he's the closer, you know, and he's going to have a conversation with them before he's holding the pillow in front of them so they can see it. They're going to get it, right? But they got to talk to this guy first, and he's going to ask them questions and find out if they really have a desire to buy anything other than the free pillow. And if so, then he's going to make the right offer for them. But it's a sifting process of figuring out each person that comes through the door, what are they interested in? What are their goals? What are their desires? And with you, it's the same thing. You have to figure out, when is the appropriate time. The more that, like, if you figure out what somebody wants at the end of the rainbow, and that's really their ultimate desire, their desired outcome. This goes back to the timeline exercise. And then where they are today is they're at the very first part of the timeline. So if they had everything they needed, they wouldn't need you. They'd already have the thing they want, but they don't have that yet. So there's a reason they don't have it. Sometimes it's knowledge. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes they're confused. Sometimes they've got this underlying want, but they haven't really exposed it yet. It hasn't percolated to the surface. So for the timeline, you're basically giving them, and this makes the perfect lead magnet. The first thing to give them free is something that can allow them to take the first step. Oftentimes it's knowledge. If they don't know, they don't want to take the rest of the journey. But if you tell them, hey, you can actually have this thing that they want, let me show you how to get it. Here's the first thing. If you can't do this first thing, you're never going to get there. So let me help you with the first step. Once they do that, whether it's knowledge or whatever, maybe the first step is, hey, you need to know about the con artists in the game so you don't get ripped off, because that's going to prevent you from getting what you want. Let me help you with that. Let me give you the guide to make sure that you can take this first step and know with confidence you're not going to get ripped off. Right? That's a perfect lead magnet. Now, once they consume that, now they have their confidence level has gone up. They just got a little bit closer to what they really want. What do you think happens to their desire to move to the next step? It escalates radically. The closer you can get them, the more the value adds up, and then it's appropriate to make an offer of, hey, I could help you with this. I have a program that will take you the rest of the way. That's an appropriate time for an offer. And you don't have to be a salesman to do it because they already want it. That's what I like as a sequence. That's a sales sequence. It's figuring out what those pieces are that's going to work in face-to-face, belly-to-belly, and then we replicate it. We turn it into an electronic digital thing that you can walk away from, and it'll work its ass off for you forever. That's what I've fallen in love with as far as a business model. I like stuff where, I work real hard to begin with to figure it out, put it together, flush it out, test it, make sure it works, and then I cut it loose on autopilot and let that thing just work for me. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, as far as a funnel, a sequence, putting the stuff in the funnel, that's a piece of cake. It's creating that messaging, creating your sales process for your customers, for your product, that's where the heavy lifting comes in. If you get that stuff done, having somebody put it together, that's why I say you don't have to worry about any tech shit at all. If you've got your messaging and you've got your marketing sequence and your pieces together, you can hire a third grader to put it in Kartra. You don't have to worry about any of that. The plugging it in, the nuts and bolts. I've got 4 or 5 people just, right off the bat that can do it. Tammy that's in here, I've been working with her, training her on Kartra. She's awesome. She could do it for you, fairly inexpensively. But she's not going to know your business. She's not going to be near as good as you are at creating your sales process. That's where you got to get a little bit dirty. All of us. If you are not willing to put in that little bit of effort and get a little bit dirty in your own business and your own industry, nobody's going to do that for you. Even a copywriter. Yeah, there's great copywriters, but if you give them garbage, they're going to give you garbage back. You got to figure out your own sales process. What has worked, what's going to work, and get out and try it. Get dirty. You've already done it, Woody. You've got a whole lifetime of experience. We just have to kind of get it out on paper here and figure out what it is and replicate it.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. All right, guys. Anything else? I know we've gone. Geez, these calls keep getting longer. That's okay, but we're losing some of our audience here. Anything else before we wrap up?
John, I have a question. Sorry, it's Lisa. I'm back. I've just been off. Really quick. Going back to when I had to leave, you record. Do you use screencast? What do you use to record your instructions to people?
I have been using Zoom.
Just Zoom?
For
Okay.
quite a while.
But you said you started this 10 years ago.
Yeah, when I first started, I used a free screen capture recording thing. And as soon as I figured out Camtasia, I still use Camtasia today. In fact, when I do my Zoom calls, I do the recording in Zoom just because it's so easy. And then what I'll do is I'll pull it into Camtasia and I'll do any editing in Camtasia.
You edit in Camtasia, because I just bought an editing software referred to me by Christine Blosdale called Movavi. And there's so many things that I know that I don't want to go through and mark it and then send it to somebody else and pay them for it when I feel like, I feel like I can do everything. So editing, you do edit yourself. So that, and I want to be able to do that too. So
I use Camtasia. It's super simple. In fact, I can.
How do you spell that, John?
It's Camtasia, I believe.
It is. I've known about it for years, but again, it's taking on another thing to learn.
It's a Windows program. I don't know if it works on Mac or not. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really simple. I mean, it's super cool. There's other programs too that you can use to create like really cool intros and exits, intros and outros. But that's the kind of stuff you can get done really cheap on Fiverr. That's something you shouldn't spend your time learning how to create like, special effects video. That's not a good spend of your time.
I'd like to recommend Videos, Viddiyoyze. I found them through, oddly, a Facebook ad.
Yes, that's a great one.
They're amazeballs. Like, I just bought the very, very lifetime lower level for like $69. I'm not in because I'm never going to need more than that.
Yeah.
And I'm creating, and me, like I say, I'm not tech. It's so great. So great.
Yeah, that's a cool program. But, that's something like maybe you spend a weekend, you create some really cool intros and outros, and then you probably don't need it anymore.
Exactly. So,
Lisa, can you put that in the chat, the videos?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think there's a Y in it. I think it's Viddoy.
Viddoyze videos.
Yeah,
I think that's
weird,
the videos.com.
It's a weird spelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, That's a cool one.
I
didn't
actually-
have that.
Can I share one I made and you tell me if it's any good? Because it's the coolest thing ever.
Sure.
Okay, hold on.
Let's see it.
All right. I think the box, here we go. Here it is. I hope it takes up the full screen. Let's see. Here we go. It took me 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you can change the colors. You can put your logo in. That's just one of many. And then I did an outro for, which I don't have on here handy, for the end of my video that I had professionally edited from the Make Money in Commercials event. So
Yeah,
it's fun.
does the videos, I haven't really played much with it. Does it have the sound effects and all that stuff with it?
It does.
Okay.
And that's the thing, is you can't really choose. The sound effects come with it. You can supposedly, I guess, just use the video part and upload your own audio, but then that's too complicated. But they have ones that are as long as like 50 seconds that take people through a process. They've got ones that are like live action. There's one that people are standing in an art gallery and they're all talking to each other, and there's music, and then everybody moves apart and points at this big painting, but it's your logo or whatever you put in there. It's really great. It was like $69.
Yeah.
So I recommend it, and it's pretty darn easy. So
yeah, there's another one out there called Promoli.com, and it's more for creating whole sales videos and like advertising videos, and it's the
Promoli.
same thing. Promoli, yeah, it's got drag and drop templates and stuff, and I'll show you.
I put that in there.
I'll show you. I did one here.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love that one. Yeah, I think you shared that at the event that it was on live. Don't miss it because it's not being recorded, and then you recorded it. Yeah, I was on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, it took me about 5 minutes to make that video because there was a template already there. I just put my text, my logo, and exported it. So it was really cool. But it's like we've got stuff at our fingertips that, you know, can just make us look amazing with very little effort. So lots of cool stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up before we hit the 2-hour mark on this call. So I don't want to keep anybody tied up. You know, you guys got better things to do than
Thanks, John.
sit on here. All right. Thank you all. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, John. It was awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.